It's a real potential foreign policy disaster for the United States. The Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki now rejecting calls for an emergency government, calling it, quote, a coup against Iraq's constitution. This comes just days after the Secretary of State, John Kerry, pressed Nouri al-Maliki to reach out to Sunnis, to Kurds, everyone in Iraq. Form a new coalition. I'll talk about that with John Kerry's deputy spokeswoman, Marie Harf. She's here in the Situation Room. We'll discuss in just a moment. But first, CNN's Brian Todd is also here with a closer look at what some say may be the best way out of this crisis, simply splitting Iraq in three. Brian, tell us what this is all about.
Wolf, this is about dividing, separating Iraq into Shia, Sunni, and Kurdish regions, all responsible for their own destiny. Some argue that'll make this place more violent. Others say we're already there. Why devote more blood and treasure trying to hold it all together? On the ground, a convulsing spiral of violence. ISIS militants overrun crucial Iraqi territory. A sectarian war unfolding. Now, some influential voices are reviving an idea floated in the early stages of the Iraq War and at the height of the insurgency when U.S. troops were being killed every day. Stop trying to hold Iraq together.
The United States should not be in the business of trying to put together a country that has broken up.
Former U.S. Ambassador Peter Galbraith, now an advisor to Iraqi Kurdish leaders, advocates dividing Iraq into three sections, split along religious and ethnic lines. A Shia region in the southeast, shown here in blue, a Sunni region in the north and west, shown in orange, and a Kurdish region in the northeast, in yellow. It's close to how Iraq is divided right now. Each region would be self-governing.
You might have the possibility that the local folks, the Iraqis, would be able to take control of their own destiny.
But a central government in Baghdad would still enforce the borders, control foreign policy, divide up oil revenues between the three groups. Galbraith argues the Kurds already have a strong government supported by oil money.
It has its own military, the Peshmerga, and when ISIS approached the Peshmerga made clear that they were going to resist. ISIS didn't attack.
In 2006, Joe Biden was one of the strongest backers of the idea to divide Iraq.
You got to give these three sectors, Shia, Sunni, and Kurds, breathing room, so their main purpose is not to try to kill one another.
How does he feel now? Contacted by CNN, the vice president's office wouldn't comment. The Obama administration says they're all on the same page.
We have an interest in a government that can unite Iraqis.
Some experts feel dividing Iraq into three would not end the fighting.
The boundaries between the Sunni areas of Iraq and the Shia areas of Iraq would have constant fighting and bloodshed. So I think a three-state solution is actually a recipe for instability, not a recipe to solve this crisis.
Plus, Colonel Peter Mansour says to enforce these borders and then to ensure that Sunnis and Shias in Iraq will not kill each other, you would need a peacekeeping force. He argues there is not a peacekeeping force big enough to do that job, and he says who would sign up for it? Wolf?
Brian Todd, thanks very much for that perspective. Let's dig a little bit deeper. Joining us here in the Situation Room, the deputy spokeswoman over at the State Department, Marie Harf. Thanks so much, Marie, for coming in. All right, so do you believe that dividing Iraq, as Joe Biden recommended when he was a senator in 2006, into three parts is potentially a good idea?
We really don't, Wolf. Our position on this has been very consistent across the administration that the strongest Iraq is a unified Iraq. And all of Iraq's leaders, from the Kurds, the Shia, and the Sunni, have said they're committed to forming an inclusive government that includes all parts of Iraq. And that's certainly what we're still focused on.
So was Joe Biden wrong in 2000? I know he's the vice president of the United States. It's probably awkward for you to acknowledge it, but it sounds like if the State Department thinks that Iraq should not be partitioned into three, the administration believes he was wrong.
Well, the whole administration believes that Iraq should remain unified from the top on down. I can guarantee you that we're all on the same page on that. And I know there's different opinions out there about what should happen, but we've been very clear, again, that a strong Iraq needs to be unified, needs to be led by a central government that includes all of Iraq's parties.
As you know, the Secretary of State makes a dangerous visit to Baghdad, risks his life to go there in secrecy, can't even tell the world he's going there. It's so dangerous.
Yep.
He meets with Nouri al-Maliki. He says, you got to form a new government. You got to have an inclusive government of national unity. Nouri al-Maliki today goes on national television and says, not going to happen, rebuffing what the Secretary of State, speaking for the American government, appealed to him to do. Your reaction?
Well, I think there was actually some confusion about what Prime Minister Maliki said. He rejected this notion of an extra-constitutional emergency government. Actually, what he said today was that he supports the formation of an inclusive government under Iraq's constitutional process, which is exactly the commitment he made to the Secretary, and it's exactly the commitment we were asking him to make. So I think there was a little confusion about what he was saying.
But you admit there is an emergency underway right now. This is not a normal situation where you can just get a bunch of political parties together and form a coalition. You have an emergency. The country is on fire. People are dying. Baghdad is in trouble right now. They got to do something, and he seems to be living in a different world.
Well, not at all. Look, we believe there has to be a government formed very quickly, absolutely, because, as you said, it's an emergency. But we believe the process that needs to happen under is the constitutional process that all of the different parties have bought into. He certainly, today when he spoke, talked about his commitment to that, and that's the commitment he made to the Secretary. But to be very clear, I think we're going to see in the coming days whether all of Iraq's leaders are committed to this, because that's exactly what needs to happen.
Do you believe, speaking for the State Department, it's time for Nouri al-Maliki to step down?
It's not for us to decide who's going to be Prime Minister of Iraq. It's for the Iraqis to decide. They had an election. There is a process they have in place, again, this constitutional process, to choose their new Prime Minister. And really, it's up for them to decide. But whoever that is, it needs to be someone who will govern inclusively, which we haven't seen, quite frankly, over the past few years.
The Syrian Air Force now attacking ISIS positions inside Iraq. The Iranians sending drones over, arming elements to go after these ISIS terrorists inside Iraq. Is that good?
Well, let's be clear, Wolf. The solution to Iraq's security problems is not the Assad regime, and it's not militias backed by other countries. What it is...
Backed by Iran, you mean?
Backed by any other country. And what we've said countries in the region need to do, any country, including Iran, need to play constructive roles in promoting a government that's inclusive.
Is Iran doing that?
Well, that's certainly what we've called on them to do. I think we still have some questions, quite frankly, about what Iran is doing. Well, exactly what they're doing there. But again, Iraq's problems need to be solved first and foremost by Iraq's political leaders stepping up and by Iraq's army stepping up. We're going to help it do that, but this is a problem Iraqis themselves, not any other country, including the United States, can fix.
Marie Harf, thanks very much for coming in.
Thanks, Wolf.
We're counting on you. We're counting on everyone. This is a horrible, horrible crisis that's underway right now.
And that's why the Secretary was eager to go there and have these conversations on the ground, because it's so crucial.
Well, let's see if Nouri al-Maliki does anything. I'm worried that he won't, but we'll see if he does anything positive. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Wolf.
Just ahead, there's fresh fallout from that bite seen around the world. We have details of new developments in a World Cup controversy. Our own Rachel Nichols is standing by live.